This is a story, a little lighter, I hope. Years ago, we belonged to this church group and we decided that we were going to go to this convention in St. Louis. And we'd already driven to Chicago and that was okay, but now it was St. Louis and they offered a bus ride. We were like, this is awesome because we could sleep on the way. It'll be the greatest thing. We'll get on this bus, we'll drive to St. Louis, we'll spend the weekend, and then we'll drive back. Little did we know. So as we got ready to get on the bus, we noticed there was a young man's bus, a young women's bus, and a family bus. And the family bus is where the trouble was. We got on this bus, and we made our first pit stop, and the bus driver seemed to not know what he was doing. He was looking for, like, wiping with his hands the windshield, and we're like, what is this guy doing? And it turns, and somebody found, oh, well, there's this Windex here under your seat. You could use this. We all laughed. The guy, well, little did we know. As we drove further, we were driving along, and he made a wrong turn. He missed the first turn off of the highway, and the other two buses were going on. Well, you know, this would normally be not a big deal. We're all going to the same place. We know where we're going, except that apparently he didn't know where he was going, and we ended up, and the other problem was that the spare driver was on the other bus. And so we're like, you've got to stop those guys. You've got to, hey, use the cell phone. And the guy says, the cell phone is for emergencies. We're like, there's no spare driver. This is an emergency. Okay, so we got back on the bus. We somehow stopped. Long story, we finally got to this event, had a lovely weekend. We all came back to get on the bus to go back home again. And the bus driver, now that we saw him, was no longer in uniform. And we thought, great, he was suspended. We don't have to worry about him anymore. Well, another driver started driving. And then at some point we swapped over overnight and this guy started driving. So as we started driving along, everybody was relaxing. We finally got a good night's sleep. We didn't have to stop on the way. And all of a sudden there was this boom! And the bus came to a stop. I got out and we're looking at the side of this thing and the driver says, "We hit a deer!" Because he saw a deer on the side of the road. Well, I walked out of the bus and I walked down, take a look at this deer. The deer is bloated like this, stuck up like, probably was not the thing that we hit. So we couldn't get going there. The police came on board and looked at the bus and looked at us and said, okay, we need to know the names and addresses of everyone on this bus. You're kidding, right? No, we are not kidding. Went down family by family by family and took the names of everybody's names and all the kids, and there was a lot of kids on this bus, so it was just going and going and going. Finally, we got towed to a stop. They fixed the bus. All the other buses all had to wait for us. We got to actually, this is like, we had a breakfast at the breakfast bar at this next stop. And then we got back on the bus and started driving again, and finally we're going along, and it seemed to take forever. I don't know why, because it could be that it was just taking forever. We finally got back, or we took a stop. They said, okay, we're going to stop and go into Walmart. And so we walked into Walmart, and everybody's zombies. They're all walking around the place, and guacamole, packaged guacamole, yes, and toys and games for the kids. That'll be good. We ended up with a huge bags of everything we could bring with us, because honestly, apparently we had no idea if we were actually going to make it back again at the end of the day. So we just brought everything with us, and we finally were driving along. We were I remember at the last part of it, we were watching a movie or something, and I'm falling asleep, and my son James is shaking me awake, and, Dad, what about this question? I don't know. I'm trying to answer him, and I'm falling asleep, and he's waking me up again. And we finally got home, and That was the last bus trip that we went on as a family, and I think that'll be the last bus trip we ever go on as a family again. So that's it.